Shabbat Shalom. If you would like, I would encourage you to take out the Chumashim. We're going to start with a little bit of a in-depth look in one of the verses that we read. Actually, we had just missed it in the triennial reading, but it's on, I think, 742, I believe. Let's make sure we find it. And what I want to look at is a line that is brought up, so 741. Okay, so we're talking in this part of the parsha here about what? Land. We're talking about Shemitah. We're talking about the land of Israel, what we can and can't do with it. So if you look through and you look to the bottom of the page, right, you're going to observe my laws faithfully, keep my rules so that you can live upon the land in security. The land's going to yield fruit, which is wonderful. You'll eat your fill. You'll live in security. We're talking about the Jubilee, the Shemitah year. When you sow in the 8th year, you're still eating the old grain. Don't worry about that. Come to the bottom of the page, verse 23. Va'aretz lo timacher litzmitut. You cannot sell the land beyond reclaim, is how JPS translates tzmitut, alwaysness of some kind. Now here's a ki li haaretz, because for me is the land. Who's the me? God, always the right answer when a rabbi asks a question, that's right. Also, it's capitalized, that's a good indication there in the translation, right? For me is the land, ki geirim v'toshavim atem imadi, because you are as strangers and residents with me. So here's what I want us to do. Don't worry, we're not taking more than the allotted sermon time, I promise. But I want you to turn to the person next to you, or politely decline to do that, that's fine too. If you don't know the person, introduce yourself, say, hi, Shabbat Shalom, my name is Ethan, it's nice to meet you. Look at this verse, and what I want you to do is ask as many questions as you can about this verse, about the words, about the meaning, about what's going on. I want to hear a bunch of questions about this verse here. So again, 25, 23, Book of Acre, page 741. Take 18 seconds, turn to the person next to you, come up with some questions, ready, set, go. Nine more seconds. All right, let's bring it back. There'll be more time. I can't remember which rabbi said that God can be heard in the murmuring of students in the Beit Midrash, if anyone remembers the quote, but that was clear in that moment right there. It was beautiful. So who's got questions for me? Who wants to shout out a question about this verse? Or you're thinking, nah, it's fine, it's cool. You know, there's a great thing, by the way, that you can do now because of the website Safaria. When you click on a verse, it gives you the commentary. It's got a little parentheses of how many commentaries there are on that verse. And it's kind of a fun exercise to look through, and you click on one and it's like, oh, there's 30 commentary. That means it's like pretty clear. People mostly think that they know what it is. then you click on like Bereshit bara Elohim, and it's like 247 commentaries, right? Because no one knows what that means. So this is, by the way, like a middle level one if you look in Sefaria. So who's got questions? Yeah. Nice. Okay, so we seem to have a core flaw in the programming of the entire Torah and our people, right? Which is that the whole thing from Abraham on down is predicated on you are going to inherit this land, and I'm going to give it to you, and I'm going to show it to you, and if you do good things, etc., right? And now, kind of snuck in the middle of a part where we're all sort of sleeping, and it's usually a double parsha, God says, oh, by the way, actually, it's never yours, right? What? Great question. Love it. What else? Yeah. Great. Okay, so one question, so that's a question on imadi, right? What does it mean to be you're a stranger and a resident with me, again, presumably capital M, God? Wouldn't it be stranger and resident ba'aretz or something like that? Great. Great question. More questions? Yeah. Why am I, first of all, only I get to turn it back on you and do the why are you? That's the rule that I have. Why am I asking you about this verse, meaning God says it's his, why are we arguing with God? Shabbat shalom. Yeah. That's a fair point too. Nice. Well, hopefully that'll be answered in a few minutes, but any further questions? Did I see? Yeah. Great. If the land belongs to God, I'm going to broaden that to just what are our rights, period, right? To sell, to buy, to give away, to let others live, to build a well, to build a desalination plant, to not, right? Like what, if it's not mine, what do I get to do or not get to do with that land? Great question. Any other questions? Yeah, two more and then we'll move on. Yeah, Larry. Great. So specifically, if the land is God's / given, where can I sell it? It's one thing to sell it to you. Actually, by the way, there's 3 levels here. There's, can I, a member of the tribe of, Dan, sell to a Naphthalite, right? That's one question. Can I, as an Israelite, sell to a non-Israelite is another question, right? But those are both open questions. What does it mean? Last one, yeah, Elise. Nice. Okay. To whom are we redeeming this land? Who are we redeeming it for? Professor, please. Great. Which boundaries? And so when I'm going to ask you a question. Sorry, David, you're back from Israel. I can't say no. Go ahead. Next week I'm saying no, but for now, yeah. Uh-huh. Great. Right. Great, right? So sort of the exact same question that we had here, but you bonus points for adding the Hebrew grammar to it, right? Of sometimes it's you and sometimes it's you plural, and what does it mean? So the question then becomes, these are, by the way, all great questions. As one of my teachers in Israel used to say, other religions specialize in answers, we specialize in questions, right? All your questions are much more interesting than whatever answers we might come up with. But the question I want to turn back to you now is, so what? Right? So there's a question of what are we doing with the land? What are our rights for the land? What is going on with the fundamental promise of the Torah here? Right? Now, to whom is this speaking? Right? Why does God mention this in this moment? Right? I'm going to ask you, right? Do you think it's about the individual landowner outside of Modi'in? Is this about the Israelites as a whole? Who are we saying, don't forget the land isn't yours to? Is that question clear? No, not quite. Oh, but there's an answer. So yeah, please. The land is God, but what? Great. So we have a representative of the classic medieval commentary, Ha'amek Davar, who writes that what God is setting up in this situation is a sort of steward-tenant relationship. God owns the land. We get to enjoy the land only to the extent that we are what? Holy. Is that what he said? Yeah, right. That's what God just set up in all of this chapter, right? So if we follow the wages of our labor, the labor is doing God's will on earth. Holiness, the Torah, all of that. What we get out of it is earth. We get to enjoy the land because we are operating in this steward relationship. And by the way, if you want to prove this through halakha, the rabbis say that if you enjoy something in this world without saying a bracha first, it is as if you stole from God, right? What does that mean, say some of the rabbis, right? That if you don't stop to acknowledge God when you eat the sandwich, then it's as if you've stolen the sandwich because you're not acting in this relationship that God set up in Vayikra, right? We are supposed to do God's will. We're supposed to do Judaism, Jewish law, and in return, we get, wheat and grain and water and sandwiches. And so we have to acknowledge that in that moment. Great. What else could be going on with this idea here of God, don't forget that the land isn't yours, right? What's God trying to tell us in this moment? That's maybe a better way to ask my question. What is God trying to tell us by reminding us right now that the earth is not yours? You cannot sell it in perpetuity, right? It belongs to me. You are like strangers and residents, which we didn't point out, but I mean, that you sort of said, that is nuts to say. We're talking about Israel, and we're saying you Jews are always going to be like strangers and residents in the land of Israel, right? That's kind of crazy. Okay, sorry. What's God trying to tell me? Please. Okay, but what do I, little old Ethan Witkowski, just trying to live my life as a good Jew, do with the notion that everything belongs to God and not me? Yeah, please. Okay, so one part of it is don't take it for granted, right? This is a commandment about gratitude, perhaps, right? Don't forget, nothing belongs to you. What's the line? I think this is political, but it's sticking in my mind. You didn't build that? That was like a whole thing, right? Okay, right? But also, a good reminder, right? You didn't do this. There's a lot that you didn't do, and you should be grateful for the world, right? You found fruit trees in this world that you didn't plant. Be grateful. Great. What else could it be about? Yeah, and this is awesome. Great. So that's, by the way, I believe it's Ibn Ezra says a similar thing to, yeah. So Ibn Ezra, I'll repeat it for everyone. Ecological stewardship, right? This is about taking care of the land. It's not yours. Now, Ibn Ezra, one of our medieval commentaries, says exactly the same thing. He doesn't use the language of ecology, but he says that the for whom we are holding this are future generations. Right? Rashi says this is about a business transaction in that moment. When I'm selling you a piece of land, you have to remember that it doesn't really belong to you, and when the Jubilee year comes, it's all going to revert back to where it's supposed to go, and don't be upset about that. That's what Rashi says, right? That this is sort of an exhortation in the present, specifically about the Yovel year, and that's it. Ibn Ezra says, no, it's not about Yankel and David selling land back and forth. It's about taking care of the land. It's not really yours. It belongs to your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren, right? Which is a beautiful sentiment to this as well. Yeah, there's a back row over here. Please, okay, go ahead, yeah. Say more about the transience of life. Very nice. Okay, we're going to come back to that in just 1 second. I want to take one or two more of our "What's God trying to tell me?" and then we're coming back to the transience of life, and then we'll dive in. Rabbi, please. Wait, which rabbi? Because there's a bunch here today. So, Rabbi Lerner. Yeah. Yeah. Right, right, right. Nice. Well, let's take one more question, but that's yes. Yeah, well, we can answer it. Don't worry. We're not stumped here. I'm gonna repeat it. Don't worry. We'll do this, and then Warren, give me 1 second. So the question is, right? These laws, which are beautiful, right? What they ask us to do about the land, what they ask us to do for each other, and what they ask us to live our lives. I'm giving away some of the end here, right? Is gorgeous and completely not part of normative, like modern halacha. The rabbis essentially say they restrict it to only in the Jubilee year, which only can happen when all the Jews are living in the land of Israel, which is, as Alan said, never, right? And so this all becomes kind of in the world of Hilchata l'Mashiach, right? Laws for another time in some other world, and it's not really practical for us. So why would the rabbis do that was the question that was asked of me. And the answer, of course, is I don't know. But I think part of it goes to what we talked about earlier today with the interest, right? I think that there is a tension, especially in the moments of the Jubilee year in these laws, right? This chapter of Leviticus gets as sort of pie in the sky as the Torah gets. And I think that there's a worry the rabbis have that if they try to impose this on everyone in Israel too much, that people are going to reject the whole Torah because they can't do this. And so they sort of say, okay, that's going to be for later, right? I understand we can't not reap in 2 years and do all the whatever and rely on God to provide for us and all of that stuff. It's too difficult for people to do in the real world. They kept Shemitah, but they get out of it real quick, right? They come out with they get the Prose Bowls already pre-Mishnah, and then there's like all the different selling it to people. So they keep it in the same way we keep like Kohanim. It's not really as effective in their lives. But again, I don't think the rabbis give up on the dream. I just think they don't want to make us try to live it out until we have it. Last one, and then we'll finish with the other thing, and then we'll move on. Yeah, Warren, please. Nice. I love it. I like that I don't even have to push you to the environmentalism place. You're just there already. Makes me very happy, and thank you, right? So it could be about sort of sustainability, right? That this is a reminder. Now, here's where I want to end with one more question for the room, that you're going to do another turn to your partner, because, by the way, the sort of place of existential transience of life is where almost everyone goes post-Middle Ages. And by the way, because also, Rabbi Eiser, another answer to your question is that the Jews lose control of the land pretty quickly as well, right? And so if we aren't in the land, then having all these laws that are about specifically what you can and can't do with the produce of Israel become kind of irrelevant. Right? By the way, Sforno says, we're ever done, right? No, that is true. So you're saying, meaning it's not just that we aren't in control of the land, because even when we were in control of the land, we didn't do it. Okay, that's fine. That's a fair point. So see the early answer about idealism, right? But I think one of the things that the rabbis do after we get kicked out of the land is they make this deeply personal. So Rebachia ibn Pekuda Chovavot Levavot says that what this law is telling me to do is to live my life as if nothing is mine. Right? All of my possessions, always be ready to move on to the next thing. Always be ready to grow and to be transient. There's nothing that you can hold on to. You can't take anything with you, right? To quote my favorite country western song, it's not what you take when you leave this world behind, it's what you leave behind you when you go, right? That there's something to that. Now, this gets into, and what I thought was going to be more of our conversation, but it'll be the end of our conversation, is a sort of complicated relationship that the Torah and Judaism have with this idea of asceticism, right? Because to take Chovot Levavot all the way to its sort of furthest thing is this real, just sort of monkish, you own nothing, the world is unimportant, right? All possessions are bad, right? Total sort of renunciation of the physical world. And there are strains of that in our tradition, to be sure. And we are also a people that enjoy the physical world and sanctify the physical world and do act in the physical world and have to be. So the question that I want to ask you is right now, less about what Judaism is or isn't, right? But what do you feel, right? So if you had to put yourself on a scale from 1 to 5, 1 being I'm going to sell all of my possessions and live on a platform in the desert. Adam Gregerman isn't here to find that joke funny, but he would. If 1 is I'm going to sell everything, complete asceticism, total monkishness. 5 is, I want every piece of land I can buy and own, and it's mine, and the world is mine, and this is all that we have and all that's important here, right? Where do you put yourself on that scale? Is in sort of how you feel, and I want turn to the person next to you, maybe talk for a little bit about why you feel that way, and does it change for you? So on this sort of scale of how connected to the material world we are in, that's my question. Take 36 seconds for this, okay? Do one and then share, and then we'll say Shabbat Shalom. So asceticism versus pleasure in the world, where do you fall? Go. Sure. 3? 3. 18 more seconds. All right. Let's bring it back together. This is a conversation to be continued over Kiddush. I'm not going to ask anyone to share. What I will do is this, though, and you can feel free to just keep your hand down the whole time. We're going to just do a show of hands. Let's work our way. Do I have any ones? Anyone who's just this earthly coil needs to be shuffled off and sell all my things and go live in the desert? None. Interesting. Okay. Do I have? We got one. Okay, Les. If anyone needs a couch or a car, he's got stuff to. No. Yeah. Okay. Twos. Twos. Any twos on this? On your sort of in the middle. All right. Threes. I'm guessing. Yeah. Who's my centrist middle of the road here? Okay. Any fours tilting towards materialism, which is, again, there's no judgment, just looking, okay? And fives, do we have total? All right, nice. So, and George, I think anyone under the age of 10 is a 5 by just dint of where you are, yeah. Great. And he, right. And I was asked, no, the scale doesn't go up to 6 or 7. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a great point. I'll repeat it, right? It varies where you are in life. It varies, by the way, it varies not only sort of age and stage of life, but I have found in my life that it varies based on what's going on in the world around me. Like my only personal story for the day, and it's short, is I remember when I was at Pardes, I was learning, and there was some simcha, and everyone brought around, schnapps, and we all had a glass, and we all whatever, and I got up to move, and my chavruta drank my schnapps, and I don't know what he did, and I felt it I was like angry that he had drank my schnapps, and I was like, that was supposed to be mine. And I took a second to think, like, whoa, why am I so mad about this right now? Like, by the way, his brother was your chavruta. Did he drink your schnapps, David? I don't know. No? Okay, all right. And I realized that it was what was going on in my life. I was in Israel. I'd just taken a year off of seminary. I was a little bit unsure of what I was going to do. I had less money than I've ever had in my life. I was feeling insecure in where I was, and it made me sort of extra like, but that one thing was supposed to be mine, right? So it can change just where we are in our lives in a month, right? What it means to feel like something should be ours or shouldn't be ours. And what I think that God is asking us to do in this, I don't know what God is asking us to do, but what the rabbis take from this, and I want to jump ahead, 1,000 of years to, where we go in the modern world, is to sort of find a real balance, right? The people who are the threes, I think that's right, a balance of knowing that some things are ours, and by the way, that brings responsibility of stewardship and care with it, and also not taking our ownership of things so seriously, not taking too much pride, not taking too much anxiety from what we think should or shouldn't be ours. And this is, said very beautifully, I think, by Heschel, as he talks about what radical amazement is. And he writes, I know I've shared this before, he writes at the exact same time as Aldo Leopold, who's the sort of founder of modern American environmentalism, and he left. And Aldo, my son's namesake, who writes about radical perception. And both of these philosophers and thinkers are trying to get us to a place where we appreciate what's in the world around us. We are amazed by what's in the world around us without feeling like we have to control what is in the world around us, or we have to own it in order for it to have value or meaning. Right? And the ability to just understand and appreciate. It was important in the 50s when Leopold and Heschel were writing it, and I think it is double and triply important now for a lot of reasons. And one, for the people that mention the environmentalism, is that the world around us is changing, and the way that we are going to be interacting with the world is necessarily changing. And we're going to have to learn how to let go of what our expectations were for what the world is going to look like, or what our relationship in the world is going to be, in order for us to reasonably get through what's coming ahead. And we're also going to need to think about what it means to belong to something and to own something. And if we can all find the ability to appreciate the world around us, appreciate the people around us, be radically amazed by all of the wonders that we see, all of the wonders that people do, that's how we're going to be the people that the future needs us to be, and that Ibn Ezra's future generations need us to be, so that we can be stewards, so that we recognize that we are sometimes Gerim, strangers, and sometimes Toshavim, sometimes residents in a land, but ultimately it doesn't belong to us. It belongs to God, and it belongs to the future, and we have to do what we can to preserve it and appreciate it as it is now, to pass it on to them. Shabbat Shalom, friends.